Recently, there was an evaluation done of the tribunal, and a village was asked to share their experience of reconciliation and what they had learned and how that process was going for them. And they said, well, actually, we've been involved with two groups. There's this group that comes, and they come for a day, and they bring bread, and they talk about the Khmer Rouge leaders, and they tell us about they're going to bring justice, and then they go home again. And then there's another group of young Cambodians who come to visit us, and they bring rice, and they stay with us in the village, and they spend several days listening to our stories and really hearing what was our experience of the Khmer Rouge years. And so we said to them, well, which one was more meaningful for you? And they said, well, of course, the people that brought the rice, we don't like bread at all. But it was also for us indicative of the Khmer Rouge trial process and how, in fact, that process of justice has really been brought as a model from somewhere else and from outside of Cambodia. And while in some senses it is an important process for Cambodia to go through, for most people in the village level, $160 million for a justice process, which is pretty much only ever going to trial 5 people at best, is an anomaly for them in their day-to-day lives, where trying to find more than 7 months of rice for the entire year is still a challenge. I remember once hearing Van Nut, the Khmer Rouge prison survivor, speak, and he was being given a Human Rights Award, and everybody said to him, you must be so happy because now the tribunal will really bring justice to Cambodia. And his response was, when I was in the Khmer Rouge prison, I contracted tuberculosis of the spine. And for me to have treatment, I still need to spend $10,000 a month to have treatment done in my back because I need to go outside of the country to have it. This kind of treatment is not available in Cambodia. So he said, real justice will come for me when I know that everybody in my country has healthcare, when everybody in my country has the possibility to go to school, and to learn the real story about Cambodia's history, not just about the Khmer Rouge years, but also about the American bombing of Cambodia and the Vietnamese occupation and so on. So I think the second lesson for me tonight is how important local Indigenous reconciliation processes and justice systems are in the face of those that we cheer on from outside and encourage and often fund, but are often anomalies for the local population that we're involved with. I promised tonight that I would say something on gender because apparently IWDA has a concern about that, so let me say something about gender. One of the important things that we have learned about peace building is, and I think that there are students here today, students of development, and I think one of the subtleties that we've learned is that there is a very big difference between peace-building processes and development processes. What I understand is that development is really about working with the most vulnerable people, about working with women, with IDPs, with refugees, with children, with people who are the poorest of the poor in any society, and to help change and transform their economic or social situation. For us as peace builders in the last few years, we've come to understand that in fact we need to be working with what we like to call hard to reach people, or with perpetrators. With people like, as I've mentioned, in Timor-Leste, it was martial arts leaders. We have worked in Mindanao with soldiers and with armed groups. We have worked more recently in Myanmar with some of the people inside of the regime. And while it has been difficult to explain why we engage and work alongside of those people, we've started to realise that those are the people that create conflict. Those are the people that are expressing frustration and taking up weapons. So in the spirit of gender, we've discovered that we end up working a lot more with men than we do with women, because more often we found, of course, that it was men that were taking up weapons. My final point tonight for us as Australian peace builders is a little bit linked to my first one. I think one of the things that we need to come to terms with as Australians is our own complicity in the conflicts that go on in this region. And I think especially true since we're speaking and focusing a little bit tonight on Cambodia and Timor-Leste. Australia's history is well known to our neighbours. People in Timor-Leste know that we were fully aware of Indonesia's occupation of Timor-Leste in 1975, and at different times we turned a blind eye and supported that in different ways. Naturally, we were also in solidarity with the resistance movement, and we helped to bring about independence in Timor-Leste. But I think that at some point Australia needs to acknowledge that we too have our own particular interests in countries like Cambodia and in Timor, where we have our own interest in oil, we have our own strategic and military interests that we also like to protect. So we need to be honest about what is our particular interest, not just humanitarian and not just in solidarity, but to be fair and to be open and transparent about our other interests, and to make sure that corporate social responsibility is respected. In Cambodia, people are fully aware that Australia used to train Khmer Rouge soldiers in planting landmines through the 80s in order to fight against Vietnam. They know that we were party and knew about Nixon's carpet bombing of Cambodia during the Vietnam War years. So there's a big question sometimes for people about why we're so keen to trial Khmer Rouge leaders when in fact we have been to some degree part of that story all the way along, and that Western powers were very much a part of the Cold War era that brought about the conflicts in Cambodia. So I think while we have done a great job in apologising and starting to deal with some of the injustices in our own society, we also need to take responsibility for some of our own injustices, or the turning of a blind eye to some of the injustice we've been a party to in this region as well. Thank you very much for your time tonight, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you very much.